So welcome everybody. Welcome to October's Build Reuse webinar, Online Sales in the Reuse Industry. Very excited to have Theo from Community Forklift near DC and Maryland be presenting today. I'm Melissa Wenzel. I'm a board member of Build Reuse. I work at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. I'm our agency's Built Environment Sustainability Administrator. Super excited to have these opportunities. We have no end in sight for the number of webinars we're going to be hosting because we had so many speakers who wanted to present, and we tried to cram as many as we could. For those that attended the conference, you know that. So those that could not present, we are asking them to present at these webinars. And so we're continuing the fun from the conference, but also continuing to connect with one another in this way. We have kind of in short order, we have the next webinar will be on November 13th, Revolutionizing Landscapes, a worker-owned business updates and outdated, let me try that again. Revolutionizing Landscapes, a worker-owned business updates an outdated industry. So I think that's going to be really exciting. And I'm going to throw both the narrative as well as the registration link into chat. And I might update that a couple times as people joined. The number of participants doubled since I went to a different screen to look at that registration information. So welcome for those that are just joining. Just posting, copying and pasting the next webinar, November 13th, same time, 1 to 2 p.m. Central, 2 to 3 Eastern. There we go. We hope you can join us. We have a really great surprise that we're not quite ready to announce for our December webinar meeting sort of thing, so stay tuned for that. Something we've never done before. So we're finalizing the details and just not quite ready to announce it. We welcome webinar ideas, also Build Reuse affinity groups. If folks want to do a deeper dive with a smaller group of people and you have a topic you'd like to cover, we are happy to host it. So Joshua Huff, also from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, is my co-conspirator on all things related to programming at the built environment, Build Reuse. So reach out to Josh or I. We can put our contact information in chat. And if you have an idea for a webinar or a brag, a Build Reuse affinity group meeting opportunity, just let us know. Okay, well, I'm going to hand it over to Theo, who is presenting today's webinar. Take it away, Theo.
All right. Before I begin, can everybody see the slide that's up?
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to speak with everybody about online sales. It's kind of what I do day in and day out at Community Forklift. This presentation is going to be for you if you are in the reuse industry, if you work with used items, resale, surplus, and you're either dipping your toe into the online sales e-commerce sphere, or you already sell things online and you're just looking for, some tips and tricks for streamlining your processes and making more revenue with less labor and less kind of upfront cost. So let's dive in. I work at Community Forklift. It is a nonprofit reuse center. We've just celebrated our 20th anniversary. We're in Edmonston, Maryland, just outside of DC. We have a 40,000 square foot retail warehouse space. We also have about 15,000 square feet of private warehouse space in a separate building. We use that for storage and also for our eBay operations. Now, why e-commerce? Well, funding in nonprofits is tricky, and it's getting trickier. It's getting more complicated. It's getting harder to stay open. You can see all of our revenue from 2024 on this slide. A third of it came from development. That was just shy of $1 million. And 2/3, just over $2 million, came from our store's retail sales. A significant portion of which came from our eBay operations and our Shopify operations. Those are the two platforms that we use. Now we've got 30 employees. 20 of them deal with the flow of product, either going out in trucks to pick things up or processing them in our store or selling them. And of those 20 employees, 1 deals with Shopify and I deal with eBay. And the staff member who deals with Shopify and myself, we both work a little bit on both platforms. So if we look only at revenue coming from store sales, that's about 15%, 14% of retail sales are coming from online. And that's kind of going with the trend in the United States. So since 2016, when the census started tracking this data, um, the percentage of online sales as a part of all retail sales in the United States, which started at around 8%, has been growing on average 1% per year. And we're at about 15, 16% right now in 2025. You can see there's a huge spike in 2020 due to the pandemic. But the market is moving online, and the reuse market really got to go online as well if we want to try and make revenue. There are a lot of e-commerce platforms, though. So which ones do you choose if you don't already use a couple of them? Or if you want to use e-commerce, do you use one? Do you use two? How many is too many? Um, you can see quite a few of these only deal with particular types of products. So Abe Books is a book website. So if you sell only books, you might want to get into that market because you're only selling books. Your customers are only looking for books. Poshmark is for clothing. And of course, you've got Amazon and all the other big ones. I can tell you that Community Forklift has used or has considered using or has tested Shopify, Cherish, eBay, Etsy, Craigslist, Replay, and Facebook Marketplace. We currently only sell on Shopify and eBay, but we use them for two very different things. Our Shopify platform is really our website's marketplace store. So people can go to our website and they can find the items that are in our physical store on that platform. Not everything, mind you. Usually it's the more valuable things, the more interesting things, the things that we want a bit more of an audience for, things we want to show. This is the kind of stuff our store has. And so that's really for our local customer base. They can check that store and they can find measurements, condition, if they are in the market for a cabinet set, and they often ask us, how do I know when there's going to be a cabinet set coming into your store? We say we put as many of them as we can on our marketplace, our Shopify website, and it has all of the dimensions, every single crack in the particle board or in the wood siding of the cabinet is photographed so that you know what you're getting into. All of those items on our Shopify store are for local pickup only. We do not ship those items. That also gives us an opportunity to list things on there that just would be too expensive to ship, such as ceiling fans. A new open box ceiling fan or a slightly used ceiling fan is just not going to be worth shipping to anybody. So we keep those in our store and we make them available on our Shopify platform. Now, eBay, we're not looking to really sell things on eBay to our local customers. That's really what our store is for. eBay we use for items that there's just no market around here for, or our customers aren't expecting the prices on the eBay items that they would find in the store. What do I mean by that? You can see that like this shower grate by roll, the market rate, we listed it for $60 and it sold for about $60. If we have that on a store shelf in its original packaging with a $60 price tag on it, and it's next to one that we have priced just using our guidelines at $5, our customers will get upset. They might rip open the packaging to just see what this fuss is all about for the $60 grate, or they'll just storm out. I've heard when I worked in the store, a lot of customers would leave occasionally just upset at the prices that they saw. So eBay is a great way for us to capture the value of items that have that kind of hidden value, the Mercedes of toilets, as it were. We've also been using eBay more and more for product that we originally just threw out, or we just said, we do not take this. Things that we've ended up with that we just had to pay to get rid of. It turns out that there's a market for it. And that's a way to continue the reuse economy, get those items into the hands of folks who want them or want to fix them up, etc. Here's just a little breakdown of the type of product. And for instance, the second quarter of 2025 that we sell on Shopify and eBay. You can see Shopify, it's really those big items that people are buying on our website so that they can come and pick them up. Furniture, appliances, cabinet sets. And then it gets a little bit more nitty and gritty, and you get, some lighting in there, some plumbing fixtures, carpet, and then a mix of other things. eBay is a lot more varied. Lighting is almost always our best seller, both vintage, used, broken lights, and also new lights that have been donated to us by contractors or homeowners who just said, I don't want this light anymore, or I changed my mind and I couldn't return it. Um, a couple of showrooms also donate their slightly used lights to us, and we've found a great market on eBay for those as well. Appliances are really hit or miss. We occasionally get in some appliances that our store just can't handle. We're talking really expensive brands or appliances that just are not desirable to our customer base. Things that you need to have a specific spot in your kitchen that this Sub-Zero refrigerator is going to set into the cabinet set or what have you. And so that's what we use eBay for appliances. And sometimes we have appliances and sometimes we don't. So the percentage of revenue that we get on eBay for appliances really fluctuates with the month and what we have and what's going out the door. And then there's just a big mix, and a lot of these departments really change over month to month. For a while there, our media, books, DVDs, CDs were about 10% of our sales, which was amazing. Um, I'll actually just go back for a second. So we pay Shopify, I think it's about $50 a month for our subscription. And then they, of course, take a fee out of every sale that we make. That's kind of the level that we're at with them. For eBay, there are a lot of options for subscription. You can, of course, sell things on eBay for free. It just means that you're basically paying eBay through fees that they are charging you after you've made a sale. We use a store subscription. We're in the premium subscription, that's $60 a month. And they offer subscriptions ranging from $5 a month up to $3,000 a month, which I can't imagine. But that really depends on how much product you have, how many listings you want to have active at any point. Our premium subscription allows us to have up to 10,000 active listings that can just renew and never really get any fees, which means that if something's been listed for 3 years and it sells, there's no like, oh, this sat here for 3 years, we've lost this much money on it at the end of the day. Having a store subscription on eBay also gives you a couple of bonus features. The one that we use, I'd say the most widely, is the SKU stock keeping unit field, which allows us to find items in our warehouse and pick them for shipping much more easily, and also track a lot of sales data like you see in these charts. All right. I'm going to get into just kind of the nitty-gritty of the day-to-day, how we decide what we're going to put online to sell, both in our store and also to ship out through eBay. How we do the research, how we do the photography for things going out into the world or just staying put in our store, how you pack things, how you keep track of what you have listed and where to find it. And then just a little bit of, what do you say about this thing that you're selling online? How do you sell it to a customer? You'll find it's actually easier than you might think. And then a little bit of marketing, what has been successful for us, and some things that we found have not been very successful in getting folks interested in the stuff that we have for sale online. So I'm going to start with a quote from Abraham Lincoln that I found on the internet, which is just don't believe everything you read on the internet. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of incorrect information out there. There's a lot of people trying to sell things that they have a very particular view of what the value is. Maybe it's something sentimental to them, or maybe they just saw, this is a rare thing. No one's selling it, therefore I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm going to say this DVD is worth $80 when really $10 is more in line with what it's worth. So that being said, you want to find good sources when you're trying to research prices for things, research what things are, and what you think you can get for them. We, of course, use Google Lens a lot when we can't tell what something is, and we use that as a jumping off point to get some search terms, figure out, okay, what is Google Lens telling us this is? And it's not always accurate. Sometimes it thinks a light is like a shelving unit. But when you can really narrow down and get some search terms, then you can start searching eBay, WorthPoint, some other websites just to figure out what is the value of this. I do have the no AI up there just because, please, if you haven't heard this before and you're hearing this for the first time, don't use generative AI for fact. If you're looking for solid facts, you're not going to get solid facts from a AI that is generating the information. My wife is a librarian and she's beginning increasingly people saying, I have this citation, and I want you to find this item for me in your library. And the thing is that AI made it up. It's not a real citation. Um, so when we're doing price research, first and foremost, we're looking for confirmed sold prices. What has something historically sold for? There's not a lot of good places to find that. I can tell you eBay is a great resource for this because they save 90 days of sold data and it's very accessible. If you are just searching on eBay in the search bar, you look up your item, go to the filters and click sold, and you will see everything that's sold with those search terms in the last 90 days. WorthPoint is another good resource. We have a subscription. You do have to pay to use their service. And it stores 15 or more years of sold data from eBay, auction houses, a couple of other sorts of platforms, but it's only particular search terms. They specialize in collectibles, vintage items, antiques. I wouldn't use them for things like, oh, this specific plumbing part or this modern light. But if you've got vintage lights, if you've got collector plates or what have you, they're a great resource to just see what is these sold for over the years. Are they increasing in value? Are they decreasing in value? When we can't find sold data, we try to aim to undercut what the current price is of a used item. We, of course, as a reuse store that is getting our items basically for free, except for, the labor and the storage. We can undercut those prices. We don't fire sale them as best as we can, but we have to compete. So in that case, you're looking at what is the market showing for those items? What are people currently selling them for or trying to sell them for? And then when it's something that there's just no used items out there and you've got a used one, think about having a multiplier that you use just to just kind of remove guesswork. So my multiplier usually, if I've got a used modern light that is in great condition and I cannot find any other used ones, I just say our starting price is 40% of the original price, and then go from there. If someone makes an offer a couple months down the line and it's lower, it's not sitting in our warehouse anymore, and someone's happy because they got a deal. The last resource I have on there is much2.com. If you are a nonprofit, you can actually get their subscription service for free. Their main thing, as far as I can tell, is they will date appliances and HVAC units. All you need is the manufacturer number and the serial number. You plug those in and they will tell you this thing was made on such and such date or on such and such date. We really only use it for our appliances. If we get a used appliance and we want to make sure that we tell the customers everything we know about it, and with things like refrigerators, they often ask, how old is this? Then you can just say without a doubt, this was made in 2010. Take it or leave it. So when it comes to pricing, the things that we list on our Shopify store, the pricing is set by our physical store. Our physical store staff are doing their research. They're also using their 20 years of experience in selling things in our store to know, I think that we can get this for that item. Where we get into some like calculus and some research for, do we take this item that's in our store and put it on eBay, is when you are doing research on eBay and looking at smaller items, and you're trying to make a little bit of a calculation of, is it worth the time and effort it takes to photograph something, pack something, deal with customer questions, ship it out? Does that make sense to then sell this item for more? Or is it not worth it? So let's say we have the sewing machine that's donated to us. We look at it, it's in great condition, it's used. We know that we've sold sewing machines like this for $40. That's about what we can ask. We probably have to take it out of its box because our customers will rip the box open. But let's look at what it sells for on eBay. So you can see these green prices tell us this is the sold price that this sewing machine sold for. The top one was new, the second one was used. Both of these are free shipping. We do not offer free shipping. So I have to think about that when I am listing things on eBay. And so I get a sense for, how big and how heavy of a package is going to cost how much to get to the middle of the country. Um, and if it's going to California, we're doing calculated shipping. So they're going to have to pay a little bit more. That's also just good for the environment, less distance for these shipped items. So I'm looking at these prices. I'm seeing $100 for a used sewing machine. 20 of that is probably shipping cost. And if I list that for $79 on our eBay store plus shipping, that also gives our local customers, if they want it, a little bit of a break because they'll be getting it at a competitive rate based on other eBay sellers. But we're also not selling it to them for $40. And the real question there is that difference, $40 to $79, is it worth it putting it on eBay? My rule of thumb is if putting something on eBay will get us double the revenue or more, then yes, it's definitely worth putting it on eBay. There are exceptions, especially lower price items. For instance, we list a lot of books on eBay, and we sell books in our store $1 a piece. I'm not listing books that are $2. My cutoff is $10 or more for a book to go on eBay, just because you've got that 8 minutes of start to finish listing a book, taking photos of it, etc. You got to factor that in, and also packing it once it sells, etc. There have been some surprises doing some of these calculations, and this is how we get into selling things on eBay that we normally threw out or didn't know that there was a market for. Those old TVs we all had, they're coming back. And when I say coming back, I mean that there's suddenly a rush for them. They're rare, they're not manufactured anymore. It sounds like retro gamers are really into them. Yep. I've sold one for $150 used, and we don't take them. So the fact that we ended up with it was shocking. But I've had to turn around and very quickly say to our donations team, take these. If you can pick it up, if you don't take the really big ones, but if you can pick it up, it's 20 inches around and you think we could ship it, take it. Even the broken ones, people are buying and they're fixing up and they're doing things with them. And of course, it's the specialty ones. It's the Disney princess ones that are going for the most money. But even the small ones, the ones with VHS players, etc. The one I sold was black and white. Go figure, $150. Another successful experiment for us has been broken vintage lights or light parts. We have ended up with a lot of vintage lights, a lot of architectural salvage, a lot of, oh, look at this 1920s brass fixture that needs to be rewired. It's really dusty. It's in horrible condition. It's corroded. And we can't give them away in our store. We've tried saying $5 and you can fix it and make this beautiful thing. No one wants it in our store. Some of our store staff have said that they would spend time fixing them up and they might get some money that way for the items, but that's a considerable investment in labor. And we're trying to avoid that because we're very short on labor. It turns out that there is a market on eBay of folks who are buying up these broken lights, paying what I feel like is a very good rate for the items, and then fixing them up and turning around and selling them either in their own storefronts or on eBay. And so we've really developed a market, and we've gotten quite a few followers who just regularly, every time we post a broken vintage light, there's a bit of a bidding war where they, 3 or 4 people will send their offers, and because I've dealt with them before, I know, okay, well, this time your offer is the highest, you're getting the light. So on the left here, you can see just eBay's general search. These are some sold prices. And on the right, these are our orders of vintage lights. So this pair went for $50 plus shipping. These two went for $64 plus shipping, $25 plus shipping, $15 plus shipping, $30 plus shipping, and so on. And it's been wonderful because we've been staring at this pile of broken vintage lights for years, and we finally have a way to get them moving and not throw them out, not scrap them or anything like that. Books for me have been a great success as well. Especially books that have an ISBN barcode. If you get a barcode scanner and you plug it into a computer, you can scan that book into an eBay search bar and you can get the sold prices right away. Some of the older books don't have that. You're gonna have to do a bit of searching, but every so often you'll come across treasures. Like on the same day, we sold this Portraitures of Horses, a Few People, and Some Dogs book for $143 and this vintage Mexican cookbook for $150. Um, that is very inspirational. It's a very narrow scope because most of the books were selling $10, $20, $25. But it adds up. And let me tell you, book customers are the easiest to make happy because the used book market is usually their used book goes in an unpadded envelope and it ends up damaged on their front step. All you have to do is take a little bit of care and package that book a little bit better than the competition, and you'll get these really glowing reviews of, oh, you actually took care of the book that you sent me. The next step is photography. So this is going to apply to both if you have an online presence for your physical store, or if you're trying to sell things on eBay and ship them out. If you have one takeaway from this entire presentation, it's this. And this is kind of an ethos I'm trying to get going, and I don't know how many people are actually going to march with it. When you're photographing something that you want someone to buy online, you want to show it the way they envision it in their head. And so if it's something small, if it's a watch, you want to get a really close-up photo because people are looking at their watches like this. They're not looking at them across the room. A light, for instance, like an exterior light, they're not standing with the light in front of their face like this. So don't take a picture of the light like that. You want a photo of the light that represents what it looks like in their mind or where it's going to go. And that is really going to help you sell the product. When we photograph things for eBay, we try to get a real sense of just this item is floating in space. So this is our main setup. It is very cheaply done. You can see there's a sloping backdrop that's just a piece of vinyl wall covering from Home Depot. I think it was less than $20. It's easy to clean. You just wipe it off if it gets dirty. And every so often it gets a little too scratched up and we have to replace it. And it's clamped to a folding table. And then we've got a couple of used lights here. The main setup here, you've got a light pointing just at the backdrop, not at the object. That's the background light. You got a raking light, which is kind of hitting the front of the light or the item at an oblique angle. And then you've got a light that's just hitting it dead on. For eBay, I generally use a DSLR camera. You don't have to. It's a personal preference. Just having it stable means that I never have to worry that I've taken a shaky photo. And if I need to turn the light a little bit, take another photo, the camera's not going anywhere. We also have a couple accessories that we use for photographing items, such as this frame, which is great for hanging lights. And that was just built in-house out of scrap wood. And then you can get that sense of just a light hanging in space, just as someone has imagined it or just as they've seen it online somewhere. Here's some don'ts. What I was talking about before, perspective distortion. If you take I know we use this photo to advertise the presentation. Don't do this. If you take a photo like this, it's going to look like this, right? The light is a rectangular box. Right now, it looks very dynamic, but it looks like a trapezoid. So here's the same light photographed three different ways. If you're taking a really close-up photo like I was in that shot, you're going to get this distorted view. The best way to get a non-distorted view of something is to be as far away as you can be and then use an optical zoom, which is, you can do that very easily with a DSLR. It can be a little bit harder with phone cameras, but you can see that the sides on the light right now on the left with the furthest distance are straight up and down. And that's really what the light looks like. And that's how people are going to imagine it. I like to think of them just being at home, getting ready to search for this visual comfort light, and they're picturing this isometric thing just rotating in their head. And then, oh, there it is. It's exactly like I was picturing it. The middle photo is in between. This is a shorter lens, a little bit closer. You can see a little bit of distortion happening, but not a lot. Like that would be fine, really. but don't do the one on the right. And a lot of our staff have done that, and it makes me sad. Um, Another thing to watch out for is light balance. I would say err on a darker photo instead of too bright of a photo. As soon as you get your photo too bright, you're going to lose details. It's going to be hard to tell that there's glass on this light. If there are scratches and scuffs on the surface that you want to show, it's going to be harder to show that as well. A lot of these rules apply if you're photographing things in your store as well. So for our Shopify store, we're only photographing things that are in the store. We're still trying to get a neutral background. You know, we wouldn't put this mantelpiece just in front of all of the furniture because that would be hard to really differentiate the edges of the mantle. So you want a nice neutral background, good lighting. Sometimes we take things up to the front of the store to photograph. Sometimes we walk around with a light source. Um, you want to get at least one shot with just the whole item in one shot so that people can see all of, you know, what does the item look like in its entirety. And there's my pet peeve, minimize the distortion when you can. Um, this is not necessary, but sometimes you can show where the item is in your store. If your store is enormous and a customer is looking at it online and they're familiar with your store, they know, oh, if I walk into the store, it's going to be in that back corner as opposed to up front. Both for eBay and both for listing things to ship and also for listing things for local pickup. If you're doing shots of damage or close-ups, make it very clear what it is you are photographing. I like to put arrows in my photos sometimes if it's not clear that, oh, this is the scratch that I'm talking about. It's right there. But don't get too close. If you get too close on an item, they don't know the scale. The customer doesn't know how big this scratch is in relation to all of the other parts. So that's photographing items. Sometimes it can be a little easier just to use the manufacturer's image. Don't do that on eBay. You will get in trouble. If the manufacturer is looking for copyright infringement, all it takes is three instances of you being called out by manufacturers for copyright infringement, and your store can be shut down. Thankfully, haven't experienced that. Shopify doesn't care. So for ceiling fans, for instance, we have a lot of ceiling fans donated to us that just have never been opened for some reason or another. And so they're too cheap really to ship. Someone doesn't want to pay $40 to ship a $60 ceiling fan, but we then are able to offer them in our store and protect them just a little bit out of the way. And we can say, okay, go to our store online. You can find the ceiling fan you want. It's got all the specs. This is what it looks like. We've never opened it. Or if we have opened it, we know it's complete. There's no damage. And so that's the one time we really use manufacturers' images. Packing. So like I said, we don't pack things for our store's website, our Shopify website, but for eBay, we pack almost every single thing that we list, but not all of them. So generally the steps are research the item, get photos of it, pack it, and then list it. Get it into our warehouse and then list it. We pack items that are fragile and are going to take a really long time to pack because there is nothing, well, there's a lot of things worse, but there's almost nothing worse than getting an order for, you know, an entire China dish set and it takes you 2 hours to pack and you've already got other orders that are stacking up and you got to get those orders to USPS before they close at 5. If you've done all that ahead of time, that fulfilling of an order of a set of China dishes, it's only going to take 2 minutes because you just print a packing slip and a label and you're done. So we pack one-off items. If we only have one of something, we're going to pack that to ship. If we're selling something as a set, like these collector Danish plates, going to pack that ahead of time. What we don't pack are things that need to be stored a particular way. So artwork, we store flat in a dark, climate-controlled area. Appliances, which we usually ship by freight, we also don't pack ahead of time because we often get appliances purchased by local customers or someone out of state says, I'm going to come and get that. I don't want you to ship it. Case in point, on this day, that light we were just talking about sold, we'd already packed it. So it only took a couple of seconds to fulfill that order and get it ready to go. This appliance, I'm really glad I didn't spend, you know, however many hours packing all of the parts and wrapping it in cardboard and strapping it to that pallet because it was a local pickup. That would have all been a wasted effort. When it comes to packing, I'd say, well, when it comes to online sales, the things that take the most time, it feels like, are researching those hard to research items, things that you don't know what they are, and finding the right size box when you need it to ship something. So here's some experiential tips and tricks for if you cannot find a box for the thing that you just sold and you need to get it out of here. If your box is too big, you can make it smaller. You can't really do the opposite. But I'm doing this day in and day out. Take a box that is a little too big, crease the inside with the butt end of a permanent marker, any brand, and then cut the corners down to that crease and fold in the sides, and then you've got a smaller box. It can be more secure, it's smaller, it's cheaper to ship. It's just a very quick and easy thing to do. And freaking boxing, yes, that's a great term for it. If you don't have any boxes, I've taken to actually cutting widths of cardboard from donated flat packed boxes, usually to widths that are conducive to shipping books. And then you basically can make your own box in, I would say, about under a minute, just by taking the right width of cardboard and creasing it on that corrugation, folding, turning it over, putting another piece, and then you're done. The opposite can also be true. You can have too much cardboard. We have a lot of cardboard here, a lot of broken cardboard. We save the boxes that are in good condition to ship, but we also end up with a lot of broken cardboard, and we've really struggled over the past several years to deal with it. We've just been throwing it out. And then we researched, how do you recycle it? Well, we're a business. To recycle it, you have to pay a recycling company instead of just a single waste company. It would have been more expensive. And then I thought, hang on, there are some people who ship things with shredded cardboard. How can we do that? We got a grant to pay for half of this cardboard converting machine. It's a Cushion Pack 320. And it's been amazing. So we basically just take any damaged cardboard that our store generates, either from donations or anything really, as long as there's no staples, no duct tape, no moist or moldy cardboard. And the machine spits out this kind of expanded, shredded material that you could use for clothing. I wouldn't recommend it. And it makes this nice, sturdy, recyclable, compostable packing material that we've got an infinite supply of now. So there's no more, oh, I sold this thing, but we don't have any bubble wrap. We don't have any packing peanuts. How are we going to ship it? It's really just a matter of, I'm out of packing material. Let me go shred some more cardboard. And through doing that, just in 1 year, we were able to save most of a 40-yard roll off of dumpster of just compacted, shredded cardboard that would have been thrown away. We used it as a packing material. And we continue to use it. I'm still tracking the numbers. 2024, though, was the first year and really a banner year for doing that. I'm not sure if we'll ever hit those numbers again. So that's packing. Once we've packed items for eBay, we store them somewhere, and then we have to keep track of where that's stored and not lose it and make it so that we know where the item is, and if we want to ship it out, we can find it right away. Also going to talk about inventory for things that you have in your store. I don't have a good solution for that, but I'll tell you what we do. Every one of our eBay items has an SKU, a stock keeping unit. Even if you don't sell things through a platform that gives you a way to just label something with an SKU, I really recommend that you come up with something like this, because it's really worked really well for us. The first portion you can ignore. This is just what we use for in-house data analysis. We can plug any report that comes from QuickBooks of like, this is all the transactions that happened in eBay. We can just say, okay, sort it by the first number. Well, that's the register department. Oh, that was a light right there. Oh, that was a plumbing fixture. But let's talk about the location. So every listing has a listing number. That's the first part here, and that is the initials of the person who listed it. Those are my initials, TZ, and the number listing it is. So that was that light that we were looking at earlier was my 2,220th listing, not counting books, because that's a separate thing. And then you've got location. The location for us, if it's in the warehouse, and almost all of them are, is very simple, and many of our staff have learned how to find these items in case they have to for any reason. It's based on the aisle number, which is labeled, the bay number, where one side of the warehouse is low and the other side is high. So just like a ship, starboard to port, you're doing a dance where you go out into the warehouse and you're saying 6, 3, shelf number is 1, and the floor is 0. And then you are imaginarily dividing, or you could label each shelf into one of 4 sections. That means that you're breaking down an entire warehouse of where this item could be into about a 3 foot by 3 foot square that you then have to find that number that we just mentioned, the TZ 2220, just in that little area. There's one other way that we store things for eBay to make it easy to find, and that is chronologically, and that's with books. So each book is labeled with basically the next sequential number that it has been listed as a book. And then they're just put in our book storage case. And then when you need to find book 550 and you look and you find 400, just go to the right. If you find 600, go to the left. And you find your book, you pack it, and you ship it. We don't have a good solution at the moment for keeping an inventory of things that we have in our store that is listed on Shopify. Our Shopify website is integrated with our POS, which is Thrift Cart. I know there are a couple of POSs at the moment that can do that kind of integration. So in theory, if someone buys it in store, it should be removed from our website. And in theory, if someone buys it from our website, it should be taken out of the inventory in the store. That's theoretical. It's not perfect. It doesn't happen all the time, which means that our Shopify employee has to go around once a week and do a several-hour inventory of every single thing that we have listed on our Shopify store. And generally, she knows where the items are because they're usually in the same spot. But I'd say week to week, we really do lose like 3 or 4 items that either someone forgot to remove it when they sold it, or they didn't scan a barcode when they should have, what have you. If anyone has any recommendations, I would love recommendations on how to keep track of inventory in store. So description, my answer to how do you describe the things in your listing when you're selling them is just bare bones. You don't want to write a novel for every single thing that you're listing. That's going to take too much time. My goal in a month is to get 110 eBay listings made, and I've beaten that goal every month so far. And for Shopify, it's about 80 or 90 because it takes a little bit more time. So you want to spend very little time on the description. On eBay, people are looking for this item. They're plugging in their search terms and it's coming up on eBay, it's coming up on Google, and they're going to that listing. So I'm only putting in the dimensions, what's wrong with it if there's something wrong with it, how it will be shipped if it's being shipped. Also, hey, it's available for local pickup to the 1 to 5% of eBay sales we make locally. And then we include a bunch of information about our organization because people aren't getting to this page from our website. They're not getting to it from our main eBay page. They're just finding this item. So having a little bit of information there about what we do, that we're a nonprofit, that we're a charity, it helps. One thing that I do that there are many ways to go about this. You can create a template on eBay. I'm sure plenty of other e-commerce platforms also allow you to create a template that you can then just say, I'm listing this, therefore use this template, and then just fill in what you need to fill in. I have just kind of a document on the side that I copy and paste from, and then just kind of delete as needed. Almost every single e-commerce platform out there now has a way to generate a description through AI. I recommend don't do that. As I mentioned before, inaccuracies. I was just doing research for a coffee machine that we sold. Before we sold it, it was a Wolf built-in coffee machine, and 3 different people had listings in which they had clearly generated their description through AI, same description, in which it said, and because it is only 24 inches deep, it can fit inside most cabinets. It's not 24 inches deep, it's 18 inches deep. So you want to be accurate, and you don't need to be flowery. AI may be good for coming up with a sales pitch and using some superlatives and hyperbole, but you don't want to do that. You just want to give the facts. Don't spend a lot of time on the description. You can see this is an eBay listing here. The description is literally just the dimensions, the condition, the shipping, local pickup options, the terms, and what we do. There's nothing beyond that. someone might reach out with questions saying, oh, does it have this feature, or, what size is it? You can answer those questions if you need to. You can amend the listing if you need to. Our descriptions for our in-store items for our Shopify site are a bit more in-depth, because in this case, the folks who are finding or looking for these items, they're not coming to it from a search bar on eBay. They're not looking for that specific item. So we have to do a little bit of, this is what this item is. Again, we try to avoid the sales pitch. This is not the bed that will change your life. We're just saying this bed is made out of solid maple, and it is gently used. And here are the scuffs, and here are the dimensions. It can accommodate a queen size mattress, what have you. You can see this is a cabinet set listing. It's got the dimensions of every single cabinet. It has information about the damage. The photos will also have any damage. This is also a great spot to put the original retail price if it's applicable. I don't do that on eBay because that can be really subjective, especially over time. If I've listed something 3 years ago or 2 years ago when I started listing things, that retail price can easily change. It might be suddenly on clearance sale on the original manufacturer's website, and then that's the retail price. But for our Shopify store, those items are moving fast. If someone's not buying it online, they're also buying it in the store. And so those listings are not going to last as long. We can try to describe to our customers, our local customers, here's why this is a good deal, because this couch was $1,000 new, and you can get it for $150 or what have you. We also include information about our business and the fine print, because we are still getting customers who get to us to our listings from Google, and they'll say, I want this door shipped to Michigan. And we say, tough luck, because we're not shipping the door to Michigan. So you want to include in there, this is how long we will store your item. We will not ship your item if those are your guidelines. Marketing. Let's talk about marketing. Marketing can be really fun, and we've done a lot of trial and error with marketing. Social media has been a huge boost for us for our Shopify store, for our in-store items and our local customer base. Almost all of our social media subscribers on Instagram, Facebook, what have you, are locals. And so they know about our store, they come shopping, and they check that website, either Facebook or Instagram, to see videos of the store, to see if something changed, is there something new? And it's a great place to share, especially historical items of the story. We found it's not great for saying, like, look at this brand new Lazy Boy couch, because they could just go to Lazy Boy for that. But if you've got an antique, if you've got a vintage item that is really special or rare, it's a great way to show that and show we take this kind of thing, we sell this kind of thing. In fact, you can buy it right now and it will have your name on it and you can come pick it up. We used to do this with eBay, but the fact is that our eBay items, we're not trying to sell them really to our local customers, because we know that those items don't have a local customer base really. So we've stopped spending the time making those social media posts for eBay items, mostly because the main way we market on eBay is people are looking for this, which is fantastic because that's much less work. If you are trying to sell something and you're shipping it and your customers are coming to you for that item, your work is done. Our marketing with eBay really happens after they've found the thing. So we allow offers on all of our items. This is one of the ways that we can move product that has been sitting for a while. Or if someone is buying a whole bunch of stuff on our eBay store and they want to consolidate shipping, or they just want to work out a deal. It doesn't even have to be a steep deal. But if you allow offers, I recommend just kind of set some guidelines for yourself. So some of my internal guidelines when it comes to offers, the first and foremost, never take an offer that means we are getting less for the item on eBay than we would have in the store. Because remember, that was the very first tenet of putting something on eBay. Are we going to get more for it? Well, we've now put the effort to put that item on eBay. There's no reason to sell it and therefore make less money than we were hoping to get out of it. Generally speaking, I don't take an offer on something I listed for 24 hours because that means there's interest. Someone makes an offer as soon as you've listed something. Sometimes before I've even gotten a confirmation email that the listing is up, I'll get an offer for something that I've just listed saying, "Oh, I'll pay right now." That means there's interest. You've got a bite on the hook. Leave it. You've got usually 48 hours to respond to an offer. And then you want to counter, most likely. So my rule of thumb is usually in the first week, try not to make any offers or take any offers on things. If you do, maybe 5% off, 10% off. In the first month, week to a month, I'd go 10 to 15 to 20% at the most of a discount. After a month, 25% off, fine. That's great. If something has been on eBay for a year, as long as we're getting more for it than we would in the store, I'm happy. And they're happy because they've gotten a deal. The other way that we market for eBay is we include little goodies with our shipments. Just things to show what we do as an organization. And we've really tried a couple of different things with this. So we've done promotional things like, here is a eBay coupon to our store that you can use for your next eBay purchase. Well, we printed 200 of those and only one person used theirs. So that didn't make much sense. We've also said, please donate to our cause. We're a nonprofit. We're trying to keep the lights on. We're trying to help people. No one ever clicked or no one ever scanned that QR code. No one has ever followed us on social media from one of those. So we've really pared it down to just thank you for your purchase. Your support is helping us do these things that are in our mission. And while it doesn't seem like that's a lot to include on, I think this was 4 cents to print or maybe less for each of the little slips. I see it reflected in the reviews that we get saying, oh, I'm so happy I helped this organization. Or I'll get a message after a purchase is made or someone gets an item delivered to them saying, I really like that you're doing this and I've saved your store. I've bookmarked it so I can find more things. And it's just great. It's a great way to move people after the fact. That's kind of all I have, but I am happy to answer any questions. I know we went a little bit long, but I think we still have about 10 minutes, right, Melissa?
7.
Oh, sorry.
No. I made Josh Hoff the co-host. I got a weird message saying that I had needed to shut down my browser, but nothing happened. I have a hard stop at 2 Central, but if Josh can stay on and others want to stay on, that's great. Josh, are you able to stay on after 2 o'clock Central?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. Looks like Max has his hand up.
Alrighty.
Yeah, first of all, fantastic presentation, Theo. Really good work you're doing. I worked at Urban Ore for 7 years as operations manager, similar scope and mission of work, and also similar protocols and operation. So my job was often handling situations when they did not go according to plan. So I've got 3 questions for those situations. So I saw that folks have 5 days to pick up the items once they've sold. What happens when they don't?
That's a very good question. So that you're asking specifically about our Shopify store. So those are items that are in our store. Those are the same guidelines that we have for any large purchase that our customers in the store make as well. So they're mostly familiar with that rule. Generally speaking, we reach out to the customer and we say, "Hey, your 5 days have passed. We're going to sell the item again. And if you want a refund, I think the rule is you only get 75% back in store credit. But usually what happens is someone will say, oh, I'm sorry, my car broke down, or oh, I forgot. And we give them an extension. So manager discretion, we usually have about a week extra we can give them. And if that doesn't do it, then they usually take the refund and they know that, they're not getting the whole refund back because they did make a purchase and
Yeah,
that fell through.
we had a 10% return fee. Do you put a sold tag on the item or do you remove it from the floor? And
We
do you
do
sold?
a we do a mix of both. So we do put sold stickers on all the sold items. Some of those items do go into a storage space. We very recently had a very savvy customer take a sold sticker off of a thing and then buy it, which
No.
Yep, that happened to us too,
yeah,
and that was a bannable offense.
yep.
Um, so when someone buys online, I'd imagine some percentage of the time, this is through Shopify again, they show up, they see the item, they no longer want the item.
Mhm.
Uh, Same policy, they return it and get 75% back, or what happens then?
Yes, for our Shopify items, yes, they get that return. The where it gets tricky for me is that we have set up our eBay account such that we take returns 30 days after purchase. And that's to prevent people returning things and saying that we lied, essentially, because that can get us in trouble. But if we give people 30 days to return their item, not for free, but we say, oh, you changed your mind, that's fine. We take the return. We don't have to deal with that, the penalty if they said, oh, I want to return this and it was not described correctly. So I mention that because we have local eBay customers as well. And so it gets tricky when, they buy something on eBay, they show up, they say, I changed my mind. I have to say, all right, you get a full refund because you're an eBay customer. You're not a Shopify customer, you're not an in-store customer. Um, for our Shopify customers, yes, they know that they have to basically take a bit of a cut, and they get the refund through Shopify, not through the store.
Okay, last question. I'll keep it brief. Nightmare scenario I've pictured in my head. Someone buys a desk in store, puts it on the cart, brings it up to the register. In that time, someone else has bought it online. Does that ever happen? And what do you do?
Yes, it does happen. Double selling. It is tricky. It makes a lot of people upset. We basically do what we can. We look at the time frame. When was the purchase made? If someone has purchased it before it's been rung out, um, then we have to say, I'm sorry, this is already sold. I think generally speaking, if we also have people putting still shopping stickers on items when they're in the store, if something sells online that has a still shopping sticker on it, that gets a little dicey. What we usually do is we have to cancel the Shopify order and just say, I'm sorry, this already sold. Someone has already grabbed this.
Yeah,
And
give priority to the people that are there.
exactly, the person who is grumpy in your face is
Yeah.
it's more tricky than someone who's on Shopify. It's also a lot easier to deal with that on Shopify than it is on eBay. Shopify, there's no rating system for buyers and sellers. On eBay, if you are unable to fulfill an order because you've lost it, it only takes 3 of these before your rank drops within a certain period. So we're right now a top-rated seller. We periodically lose that and become an above average seller when something that someone listed before my time and before, after I completed my inventory of this building 2 years ago, and I can't find it. It only takes 3 of those before we're no longer top rated, we're above average, and that just means that we're not showing up on searches as much. We don't have the credibility. And then of course we always get it back because it just takes enough time of filling orders and doing things right that we get that back. We don't have that issue on Shopify. Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Great work, man. Keep it up. Thanks.
There's an online question and then Matt Kennedy and then another online question. And I'll have to hop off after the online question.
Okay.
I missed the first few minutes of the presentation, but did you share what percentage of sales are from online buyers versus in-store customers? That's from Kathy Mirza.
Yes, I'll actually go back to that slide. So if we're looking only at store revenue, eBay in 2024 was 9.4% of total store revenue, and Shopify, which is online but local customers, was 5.1% of store revenue. And then in-store sales by themselves was just 85%. And if you're looking at the entire organization, 2/3 of the funding for the organization was from our store operations. So, those percentages just get a little bit smaller if you're thinking about the whole picture.
Cool. I'm going to try to get this online by 5 o'clock Central, maybe a couple minutes after that. So we have a YouTube channel that I'll put this on, and folks that want to watch it, there's already been a request. I want to watch this even though I was here live. So that's really cool. So check out our YouTube video page, and then this will be emailed out to all registrants shortly. I don't know what that means yet. Take care,
Excellent.
everybody.
Thanks so much, Melissa. Matt, I believe you had a question.
Hey Theo, how you doing?
Good.
Great presentation, really enjoyed it. I really dig the wipeable cove that you shoot stuff on. I've been using paper all this time, and I'm like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Using vinyl, that would have made it so much easier. So I guess my question, it's kind of a general question. Maybe you could talk about the topic, but I'm curious when you talked about trying a lot of different other platforms. I think you mentioned Cherish and maybe Facebook Marketplace and some others. I'm curious what your experience was like in terms of, um, what you liked or didn't like about those platforms, and then, what kind of pushed you to settle into Shopify and eBay, and then maybe like the third question would be like, have you experimented with using Shopify as the place where you kind of launch your eBay listings from through the marketplace sync uh, technology that they have, and what your experiences might be with that.
Sure. All right. So why I settled on Shopify and eBay is basically I was grandfathered, well, not grandfathered in. I inherited an online sales department in December 2022. And at that time, we were selling on Cherish, Shopify, and eBay. We've sold on Cherish for many years, but what we found on there was that the customer base was dropping precipitously year over year. We were just getting less traffic. They had these guidelines such that like their website would have a sale, which meant you then had to have a promotional sale at the same time. So we would have unexpected cuts in revenue from what we were expecting to make. And what really made, hammered in the last nail in that coffin was um, their shipping is white glove service, in which one of their contractors basically shows up, is supposed to take the fancy thing, unless you're shipping it, take the fancy piece of furniture and convey it to the customer. And we had had one too many bad experiences of shipper shows up, when we're closed, pitches a fuss, is like, oh, I'm not, you need to get this to me right now so that I can get paid, so you can get paid. And then those items arrive damaged or incomplete. And we had to say to Cherish, like, when it left, it had all its parts. Here are the photos. I don't know what to tell you. By the way, the guy said he was going to have help and he was by himself. It was a weird situation. And we found that we could sell a lot of the things that we were selling on Cherish in our physical store just for a little bit less than we were selling on Cherish, which like in the grand scheme of things meant after fees and all that, it just made more sense to sell those items in store, advertise them a little bit more on Shopify. When it comes to experimenting with Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Reaply, and Etsy, there was one of those things where basically the cons, it felt like the cons outweighed the pros. Facebook Marketplace, our board had me do this whole investigation into whether we should use it because we had enough board members saying, you should use it, you should use it. And what I found was that our staff would have to deal with so many messages and customers in person, folks showing up and then trying to bargain a little bit and what have you. It just didn't make much sense. And right after I told the board this, earlier this year, in fact, eBay integrated with Facebook Marketplace a little bit. Forgot to mention that, sorry. Such that if you are in good standing with eBay, your listings will show up on Facebook Marketplace only if they are shippable items. So if you have a shipping method set up in eBay, basically, if someone's searching for something on Facebook Marketplace, an affiliate link will show up in the search results saying, by the way, this, which is somewhat near you, is on eBay and you can have it shipped to your house. And then they have to buy it through eBay. Craigslist, it was a very similar situation to Facebook Marketplace, where our experience was we have a lot of no-shows, we have a lot of people reaching out, but then not really buying it, a lot of people wanting to come when the store is closed to look at items. It just didn't make much sense. Reaply, we put a lot of stock onto the Reaply platform, and we had no interaction for, I think it was 5 or 6 months. And unfortunately, we just decided, you know what, at this point, we're selling these items elsewhere. We're not going back. Unless, I'm hopeful for Reaply. And so if they, reach a point in this area, I know in other parts of the country, they're doing really well. If in the DC area, they do much better, I'd be happy to look at them again. I'm missing one, aren't I? Maybe not.
Offer up.
OfferUp. No, we haven't looked into OfferUp.
Okay.
But mainly, so because when I took over, we had Shopify and we had eBay, and we had them being used for two specific purposes. That's one of the reasons why we haven't been trying to push things from Shopify to eBay, is that we really focus on putting things on Shopify that there's not really a market. There's more of a market for right here, right now. And, we do get plenty of people who are attracted to the prices because there are stores prices on the other side of the country. We'll have people in California try to buy a light, and we have to tell them, this is on our Shopify website. It is not shippable. Yes, we could pack it and ship it for you, but that would be way more cost to us in terms of labor than you are paying. And that's why they're interested, because this expensive light is in our store for $200 and they know that it's worth thousands of dollars. Then in those cases, what we often have to say is, if you can find a way to get this shipped to you, and if you hire someone to come and take it and then crate it and do all that, be our guest. But yeah, it just made more sense for us, with a two-person team doing online sales, Shopify and eBay, to keep those pools separate and make it easier to track those items.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Of course.
Hey, we have one comment in the chat quick, and then we'll go over to David.
Okay.
So Andrew asks, I was wondering what your average price point is, or if there's a price point you strive for. How much revenue does your online store generate both on eBay and Shopify? How many items are you selling per year?
Yes, so I don't have that the items per year memorized, but I can tell you that price-wise on eBay, it's a real mix. Some of our cheapest items are, $2, $3, but we have thousands of them. We have donations of new in-box toys. So we've got all these Furby Furblets and little Lego packs, which are very cheap, but we'll have people buying 30 at a time or 20 at a time. And they're very easy to ship. And so that's one of those beautiful things of someone pays $5 plus an additional $8 in shipping, $5 in shipping. You take the thing, you put it in an envelope, you're done. And on eBay, it goes up to, the most expensive thing I've sold this year was $8,000. It was a Lacanche range. Generally speaking, it depends on the type of item and how hard it's going to be to ship, right? So books, $10 and up. I'm happy to list those. DVDs, same thing. When you get into fragile things like lights that are going to take a while to pack, to photograph and describe, I'm thinking, $75 and more, really. If it's a broken vintage light, I'm putting that in a box with some cardboard. I'm not too concerned, especially if it's cast metal. I'm not too concerned about it breaking. I'm willing to part with that $15, $25. Shopify, I think the rule of thumb is usually for something that's on our store floor that customers are interacting with, we're trying to stick to about $50, $75 and up. And then we have some things like ceiling fans where we've got 10 of the same ceiling fan. Yes, $40 is fine. Sales-wise, we're pretty much on spot for our budget this year. We're trying to make $105,000 on Shopify in the year and $205,000 on eBay. We might be a little bit behind because Q3 was a little rough, but this quarter I actually broke the record, the organization's record for most eBay revenue in a month. This month we're at 27,000 for October, which is, yes, fantastic. Next question. I believe David, are you next?
Hello, thank you. A great presentation. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you great.
Okay, great. This was the webinar that I've been wanting. I didn't know it existed, but this is the best topic that I could have possibly sat in on. because it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I don't actually have a business, but I've been thinking about creating one. So I guess one of my questions to you would be, um, you know, the whole creating a nonprofit is quite a complicated process, and a very valuable one. But for me, it would be, I've got a barn just filling up with stuff, a shop filling up with all these kinds of items that I could sell. And so for me, as wanting to do my part to take stuff out of the waste stream and sell it, um, do you think most of how this might be this might be something to take offline. It might be too long, but do most of the things that you say today apply to both for-profit and nonprofit?
Yes, absolutely. So I'd say the only differences are nonprofit wise, we have our eBay set up such that people, when they're shopping, they see, oh, this is a charity. And, if they look into it, they see 100% of the revenue from this store goes to charity. I occasionally get customers on eBay saying, what exactly is this charity? And I have to just basically say, go to our website, or, this is what we do. But essentially, that's one of the differences. And a couple of the resources I mentioned will give you either a discount or give you a free subscription if you are a nonprofit. Beyond that, this is advice that any person could use. Like, I also personally sell things that are my own on eBay on my own account, and I try to follow a lot of these guidelines myself. But yeah, anyone could use this information.
And thank you for that. There's got to be I'm sure there's some, I can look into this after the meeting, but there must be some type of amount of sales. Like, for instance, if you have a personal one, did you have to create a business for that? Or is it just reaching a certain amount of sales?
It really depends. So if you are just using an eBay, just a free user account, before I was selling things on eBay, not for the store and not by myself, I was just an eBay user, in which case you only have to have payment information because you're buying things and end up shipping address. As soon as you tell eBay, I want to sell something, they say, okay, well, what's your social security number? What's your, what is your tax information? What's all this? Because they're reporting to the IRS how much sales tax you are paying or that you owe. And I believe there are certain cutoffs for, like, you're only allowed to make a certain amount of money on eBay before you could get in trouble for not reporting that as revenue. When it comes to, like, who can make an eBay store through a subscription of $5 to $3,000 a month, anyone can do that. But I mean, yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Yeah, it looks like we have 2 more questions. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
All right, cool. So Chris, I'll let you come off mute and ask your question.
I appreciate it. Theo, thanks for doing this. It's been fantastic. My name is Chris. I'm the executive director at Resource York. Very similar business model, just a much smaller market, smaller scale store and everything. Getting a little bit into Facebook Marketplace, but my question is, what's the benefit of selling items on your website via Shopify? As I understand it, the price is the same, customer base is the same, they're local. So what is the benefit, and how is it expanding your revenue and not just moving revenue from in-store to online?
That's a very good question. So one of the reasons that we feel, well, I'll start from the top. We started our Shopify store in 2020. It was actually a pandemic project to allow customers to buy things and do a curbside pickup, because we stayed open during the pandemic, especially the initial part, but we did not have in-store shoppers. So we were saying, like, okay, you still need furniture, you still need appliances. Here's the information about it. You can buy it, and then we will have it available for you to pick up. And then we've continued to use it. And my argument for why it generates revenue as opposed to just taking it from one spot and putting it somewhere else, is that we're reaching a lot of customers through social media who are seeing these items that either they're not going to the store. A lot of these items are coming through the store. They're selling a couple days after they arrive as a donation. And we're able to take items that, are more valuable, But our everyday customers, the ones that literally come here every single day, they don't want to pay, $300 for a dresser. But if you're able to tell a bit of a wider audience, $300 for this dresser that, is Ethan Allen, or, oh, it's vintage and here are the features that make it really special. Someone will see that on Instagram or on Facebook, or someone who has just saved the store as something to cruise occasionally, and that will draw them in. We have tried and not been successful to track how many people are coming to our store because they saw something on Shopify versus how many people are how many people are discovering us through that medium, essentially. And also, we think of the Shopify store as a bit of a service for things like the cabinet sets, where a customer shows up, they see the cabinet set, but they haven't measured their kitchen. Like, they know they want to do a kitchen remodel, but they have no idea what they need. So if they go home and they scan the QR code that was on the cabinet set, all of the measurements are there. They don't have to come in with a measuring tape. All that information is there. They can go home, they can measure, they can make sure this is what I want, this is what I need, and they can click buy from home. Same thing is true of furniture that they see in the store that has that Shopify QR code. They don't know that this will fit through their door. I'm hoping they're checking before they buy it that it fits through their door, and so they can instead of having to measure it, they can get all the information they need from our Shopify store and go from there. There's been some talk in the past of, okay, do we really want to continue using Shopify? When we first started using ThriftCart as our POS, they had their own e-commerce platform, which is essentially just kind of like a Squarespace thing where you would have to build a website and then you'd sell things through that. But actually, we were apparently one of the first beta testers for their Shopify integration, where we said, we already have this feature. We'd rather not migrate all of this stuff or start anew on your own website. And they said, okay, well, let's try this. And then part of it is, the continuing momentum. We continue to make revenue off of this with not minimal. There's one full-time employee who is splitting her time between Shopify and eBay and other work as well.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
So last question here about product sourcing. How do you source your products? Do you offer consignment opportunities? Do you purchase items directly, or is it donations only?
Yes, so our organization is donations only, is the short answer. There are some things in our physical store that are a little bit consignment, so we've got a gentleman who takes urban felled trees and then he planes them down and he creates slabs of live edge lumber. It's something I've seen in a lot of reuse stores. But we have a deal worked out with him where he's using our storefront. We get a cut of what he sells there. We also purchase a brand of paint called the Amazon Paint. It's not Amazon, the e-commerce platform. It is a recycled paint company, I think based in Wisconsin. I'm probably wrong about that. Don't quote me. But we purchased that because we wanted our customers to have access to new, predictable paint instead of the whole can of worms that used paint is. So yeah, but basically everything else is donated to us. And that includes residences and also businesses, just donating their old stock. I am amazed every single day. The things that our donations director comes to me and says, oh, so-and-so at this business was going to throw this away. Do you want it? Yeah. Why aren't they selling this themselves? I don't know. But yes, there is value in this garbage. I don't know why. I guess because it's work to sell it. But that's how we're sourcing our materials.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Theo, and thanks for everyone for being here and staying a bit late. The recording of the webinar will be sent out to all registrants either later today or tomorrow at some point, and it'll also be available on the YouTube channel. So keep up to date with Build Reuse webinar offerings. Like Melissa mentioned at the beginning, we've got one just 2 weeks from today. So check out the Build Reuse website and sign up for that.
Right.
So
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Theo.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Great job. Thanks.
Ah.